Hi, I'm Attorney Ramsey Bahrawy, and this is Your Money, Your Life. In this segment, we will discuss the role annuities may play in your retirement planning. Given that one can find radically inconsistent opinions on annuities, this can be a challenging issue. Joining me in this discussion is James DesRocher, partner with Robert Fine & Associates, a firm offering comprehensive financial planning and wealth management services to families. Jim has received several honors such as the Client Builder Award, the Leaders Club Award, and the Centurion Award. He was a member of the Elite $1 Million Roundtable. Jim, welcome to Your Money, Your Life. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Rams. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, oftentimes when I talk to people about annuities, they really don't seem to know what they're about. Could you please inform our viewers, what is an annuity?
Annuities are one of the most misunderstood financial vehicles on the market today. Real basic, an annuity is an insurance contract between a customer and an insurance company designed to meet retirement goals.
That's it? That simple?
That's as simple as it is, yes.
And what makes it an insurance product?
The guarantee that the insurance company provides inside of the annuity vehicle.
Okay. Now, I know many clients, as you know, I'm an elder law attorney, many clients who have annuities, and oftentimes when I ask them about their annuities, they can't tell me what kind of annuity they have, and they can't tell me why they bought it. What's up with that?
Well, over time, the last 30 or so years, annuities have evolved over time. Today's market, there's 4 types of annuities. The most simple is a fixed annuity. You can compare that to a CD you might get at a bank. Based on insurance companies, you provide them with resources or assets, and they'll guarantee you an interest rate on that. Today's day, you might see an annuity, fixed annuity, around 2%. The way that works is similar to a CD. You're getting 2% a year on that money. Now, what's different about an annuity, since it's an insurance product, that 2% grows tax deferred. So if you put $100,000 in, earn 2%, earn $2,000, you won't pay taxes that year on it until you start taking the money out. So that's the most basic type of annuity. Another type of annuity is an immediate annuity. So basically in that example, you provide an insurance company resources, $100,000, let's say, and then they in turn provide a monthly paycheck.
Is it kind of like a pension? Is it akin to a pension?
An immediate annuity is very similar to a pension. So a lot of people today who don't have pensions but desire something like a pension, an immediate annuity works similar. You would lump sum money over to an insurance company. They would create a contract that'd pay you a monthly check for a certain period of time, for example, as long as you live, or a guaranteed period of 10 or 20 years.
Okay.
All right. The third type of annuity is what they call a variable annuity. So this type combines annuity guarantees with investments such as mutual funds or what they might call sub-accounts. All right, so you can get some characteristics of an annuity as well as characteristics of a mutual fund wrapped into one financial vehicle. The fourth type is actually a very new type of annuity called an indexed annuity. All right, so you might have heard more about these products just recently with the downturn in the markets when people still want to have some skin in the game in terms of their investments, but also want downside protection. So these indexed annuities are going to be linked, your growth of it is going to be linked to an index, for example, the S&P 500. Right? And if the index earns 8%, your value might grow by 8% or something less than that based on the cap from the insurance company.
Does the indexed annuity provide some protection of the principal? You had mentioned earlier somebody puts in $100,000 into annuity. So using that example of $100,000, would all of that or some of that principal of $100,000 be protected in an indexed annuity?
In an indexed annuity, that's going to depend on the company. Each company is going to write it a little differently.
Okay.
Most of the time in an indexed annuity, you'll have downside protection where even if the index loses that year, say 10 or 20%, you could have a floor of where you won't gain anything, but you also won't lose anything in that year either.
I see.
So I think some of the confusion comes from 4 basic types of annuities, and then also each individual insurance company annuity can be different than another insurance company.
Okay, so what you're saying is that not only of the various types of annuities you've mentioned, are they all different products, but within insurance companies, the same annuity may differ from company to company?
Exactly right.
Well, that's really confusing.
That's really confusing. That's why I think it's most important to have a trusted advisor to help you navigate through, to find out what, if it makes sense for you, what annuity might make the most sense.
Now, oftentimes people look at annuities as vehicles to purchase in preparing for or going into retirement. What are the retirement risks that people need to consider before they look at what type of investment they want to make?
Yeah, I think identifying the risk is one of the most important things when you're putting together a retirement plan. How can you possibly put an effective plan together if you don't know what you're trying to avoid, right? So some of the biggest risks that our clients face are longevity risk, which is living a lot longer, right? Also in retirement is market risk, so the market volatility, the market going up and down, and the fate of possibly losing money in a market downturn while you're retired, right? Then there's also inflation risk. So if you have some value in a 401k and an IRA, that's eroded a little bit every year as purchasing prices and prices increase, right? So that's inflation risk as well.
Cost of living, you mean?
Cost of living,
Okay.
right. So one example of that is Social Security in 2008. We saw gas prices go up to put fuel in your car, and home heating prices go up. Social Security that year did not have a cost of living increase.
Right.
So that's eroded the wealth that you had. In our opinion, what our clients face, the biggest risk is longevity risk. And that's because it magnifies all the other risk. For example, if you retire at 65 and then pass away 5 years later, well, inflation, you never really had a chance for inflation to affect you, right? Or there's no chance of a long-term care because you only lived for 5 years. Or maybe you only face one market downturn in 5 years. However, in today's, if you have a retirement that's 20 or 30 years long, you might have 4 or 5, maybe 6 market downturns that you face. Or if you have $1 million when you start retirement, in 20 years, if inflation is at 4% a year, that $1 million is now only worth $500,000, about half as much as you have. So the longer you live, it magnifies all of the other risk. That's why longevity risk is one of the most important risks to take off the table.
Okay, so could you explain to our viewers then how it is that annuities in some way minimize the longevity risk, the market risk, and the cost of living adjustment risks that you all mentioned?
Right. So no one financial product is perfect. No one thing can do everything. That's why when you're putting together a plan, it's important to have a few different pieces but all working together. Annuities fit in as a piece of that plan, right? So when you're evaluating annuities, you want to look at what else you have going on and maybe using a piece of your money. So what annuity works really well is providing guaranteed income for as long as you live, all right? So if you have market downturns and you're taking money out in a market downturn in an IRA or 401k, you're almost getting hit twice because the market's down and you're taking money out. Where annuity can become effective is it's uncorrelated with the market. For example, in an immediate annuity, you get, if it's a $2,000 monthly payout, you have $2,000 a month coming in no matter if the market's going up, down, sideways, or whatever it's doing. Same thing if it's interest rates, it's not affected by that. So if interest rates rise or go down, your check comes in $2,000 a month every single month, no matter what happens. So because an annuity can take away that longevity risk, it doesn't matter how long you live, all the other risks become a little bit less.
Okay, and how does it help with regard to market risk? Because you were mentioning earlier that there's volatility in the stock markets and to some degree in the bond markets too. How do annuities help minimize the risk for the individual?
Yep, by the guarantees they provide. All right, so annuities, when you write an annuity contract, the insurance companies now, they're on the hook. They have to guarantee the income that comes from that product now going forward. All right, so even if you have your money in an annuity, even if 2008 comes right when the market goes down, you transfer that risk to an insurance company, right? The downside risk of the protection from the market. So now the insurance company has to still fulfill that contract.
When someone initially buys an annuity, do they have what I would refer to as an escape hatch? In other words, is there a free look period, and how does that work?
Yep, there is a free look period with almost every type of annuity. That's a 10-day free look, is what insurance companies call it. So during those 10 days, is you can sign the contract, then you have 10 days to look it over, called the free look period, and if for some reason you don't understand it, don't like it, don't want it anymore, you have the right to rescind the contract, and the insurance company is obligated to give you whatever money you deposited into it back within those 10 days, penalty free.
Now, is it 10 days from the time that you sign the contract, or is it 10 days from the time you receive the prospectus?
10 days from the day you sign the contract.
Sign the contract.
And you should be receiving the prospectus on or before the day you sign.
Okay, all right. Only fair, right? Because
Only
that's the only
fair.
way you can only way you can figure out if the investment works for you, right?
That's exactly
Reading
right.
the prospectus.
Yeah, so you shouldn't sign anything until you're comfortable, until you've received all the information. All right, and that includes a prospectus before you sign the contract.
Now, you were mentioning earlier that you can buy a form of an annuity where somebody can have a steady income stream. Is it possible, given the current low interest rates, is it possible to kind of transition your way a little bit of a time into annuities, or should you be putting all of your money in at once? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, it really depends on your circumstance. You know, it used to be you start looking at annuities when you're ready to retire. So age 60, 65, 70, and even in retirement, 75, 80. And that's because at that time you realize how important it is to have monthly income come in. Now we see clients looking at it at age 45, 50 before then, right? And that way, rather than having to do one big lump sum at retirement at your age 65, you can make a few deposits over time into these type of vehicles.
Okay, all right.
Rather than, because if you wait till 65, then you might have to try to time the market, when the right time to move it out into it. This way, it's almost like a dollar cost average in over time.
Is it also possible, Jim, that you buy into one type of annuity? Let's say you buy into a variable annuity, and maybe 5, 10 years into that annuity, you decide, I'd rather move to a fixed annuity. Is that a possibility, where you just roll that money over?
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, one of the things that makes it confusing.
Okay.
Every insurance company is going to have their own provision for that.
Okay.
Okay, so one insurance company might be, once you're in it, that's the only type you can be. All right, there's some other insurance companies that might say, okay, you can be in a variable contract, then any time within a certain period of time, you can then switch with no penalty to a fixed annuity, for example. Okay, and vice versa.
Okay.
All right, so it depends on what's important to you, what's important to your plan, and what you're trying to accomplish.
Is it important for a person when they're first evaluating annuities to ask those types of questions and say, you know, if I want, 5, 10 years down the road, I decide I want to transition out, should they be asking that so they know what their options are?
Yeah, well, it should be a give and take between the client and the advisor.
Right, the advisor should be advising them.
The advisor should be advising them. So the advisor should be bringing up negative sides, because there's always going to be cons, if you will, to any sort of financial vehicle. Like I said before, there's nothing that's perfect. Everything has some positive, everything has some negatives. So the advisor, his role is to identify and share the information with the client, because the client's working with an advisor because they don't know everything, right? They don't have the expertise. That's what the advisor should be providing. Now, anything that is important, obviously, that advisor is not a mind reader, right? So if you have some concerns, then you should absolutely voice, and you should get answers to those questions as well before you do anything.
Right, makes perfect sense. Now, one of the knocks, if I can use that term, on annuities is that they're a very expensive instrument. Could you talk about that expense, and how do you view the expense?
Well, annuities compared to other vehicles, for example, a mutual fund, they are expensive, absolutely. However, so isn't running out of money in retirement. That's the ultimate expense.
Sure,
right? So annuities have been, if you say, attacked over the last few years for being expensive. And the argument used to go, well, why would I pay extra fees for downside protection if the market's always going up?
Well, we all know it never always goes up. That's a myth.
Right. That's a myth, or that's a sacred cow. Back in the 90s, is you could put money into anything and it was going up. Any sort of investment was, right? And it wasn't until this last decade, what some people call the lost decade, that we realized, hey, the market doesn't always go up. So now those expenses, it is always important to evaluate, look at your overall plan, right, when looking at an annuity, right? Some of the annuities provide things that other investments can't provide. Right? Maybe the other investment costs less. However, some of the benefits from annuities are income benefits and guarantees that other investments can't provide.
One of the cost factors is also the fact that there's a death benefit associated with annuities, right?
Right.
There's no death benefit associated with mutual funds.
That's correct.
So that's another cost factor, but you are getting something in return for that.
That's correct.
Right.
So annuities is, just to add to confusion, I guess, is you can have a basic variable annuity, right? Well, all it's going to do is provide, say, an income tax deferred benefit over a mutual fund, over a sub-account. And then you can begin to add riders to it. So you can add a death benefit rider, for example. Or let's say you lumped in $100,000 and all of a sudden the market goes down 20%. If you added a death benefit rider and you passed away, depending on the company, is they would then provide $100,000 or your original deposit amount to your beneficiaries, even though their account at that time is only worth $80,000. So those are some riders or some benefits for a fee that you can't get with other investment vehicles. And those riders allow you to really customize it, right? You can get almost what you want for a fee, right, that you can't get from other vehicles.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So you can actually take an annuity, and through the rider process, you can customize it based on what your needs and wants and goals are.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's one of the neat benefits of it. Now, each time you add a rider on, like a death benefit rider, there is a cost to that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that there are several guarantees, and you've mentioned the income guarantee, and we just finished talking about the death benefit guarantee. Are there other guarantees that are available in an annuity product? And if so, what are they?
Yep. One of the most common that we see today is what they call a GLWB, or Guaranteed Lifetime Withdrawal Benefit. So that you can wrap that onto a variable annuity. So let's go back to a variable annuity. The way a variable annuity works is you're combining an annuity, insurance contract, with investments, something like mutual funds or sub-accounts. So when you look at just a mutual fund, if it goes up, great, you get appreciation. If it goes down, then you lose the money. That's basic, that's simple.
Okay.
If you add a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit, it does exactly what the words say. Is it guarantees a certain percent lifetime benefit that you can withdraw from. So for example, if you're putting $100,000 into a variable annuity with this type of rider that costs a fee, if the market goes up, you can get that appreciation, okay? Most companies today are issuing this with a 5%, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on the company and how you design it. So if you put in $100,000, you'll get $5,000 a year as long as you live, guaranteed. Now, if the market goes down in the second year, you started with 100, now all of a sudden it's down to 80. 5% of 80,000 is only 4,000. However, since you added the rider, you'll still get the $5,000 a year as long as you live. So it provides some downside protection. One of the nice features of that, it also provides what they call a step-up. So if you put in $100,000 and the market does very well that year, maybe it's at $120,000, every year you'll step up to what's called your high water mark.
I see.
So now that 5% is on $120,000, so now it's $6,000 a year going forward.
Okay. All right, so that's good to know. So you can actually participate in some of the upside involved in the annuity.
Right. Yeah.
That's good to know. Okay. Now, you know, I mentioned that expenses is one of the major criticisms of annuities, but are there any other downsides to annuities, other things that people should be aware of and investigate?
There's certainly a few things to be aware of. One is the fees. The other is, depending on the type of annuity, for example, if you do an immediate annuity with no death benefit rider or anything, and you lump some money into it, and you pass away 6 months later, the trade-off is now there's no death benefit for any beneficiaries. The extra money that's in the contract, for example, goes back to the insurance company. All right, so that's something to be very aware of. Another downside or another negative is generally once you put money into annuity, if you take out a large amount or more than what they call penalty-free period, there's going to be a penalty for taking extra money out of the annuity contract, or what they call a surrender charge or surrender schedule. All right, so if you put it on, we'll stay with the $100,000 example, and in the first year you need to take out $20,000, there could be anywhere from a 10% penalty on that money. All right, so there's a little less liquidity in an annuity than you might have in just a regular mutual fund or rather stock.
mentioning the surrender charge, isn't that a reason why somebody shouldn't put, as you said earlier, all of their money into an annuity? Because if things happen in life, you have
Right.
emergencies, you
Right.
may need to get your hands on money, and
Yeah.
if it's all parked in an annuity with surrender charges or even mutual funds, which some of them also have what they call their loads, right?
That's correct.
You got a major problem.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's very important to look at your overall picture. This isn't a one and done.
Right.
Where you, okay, this sounds great, guarantees, I like it, put everything in it. There are a lot of great features. However, it's also important to look at the downsides. Most time, as a rule of thumb, we'll recommend clients to put somewhere between 25 to 50% of their assets in it. All right. Another quick calculation that we often use is whatever your monthly expenses are, whatever it costs for you to live, whether it be food, if there's still a mortgage payment, utilities, those sort of things that you need to pay every single month no matter what, is if you can find a way to provide guaranteed income to cover those expenses. So for example, if you have $2,000 of monthly expenses, is we can back in through calculations of how much to put into an annuity to cover $2,000 of expenses every single month guaranteed. And that's what your necessities are. So it means $24,000 a year. So an immediate annuity is maybe somewhere around 6%. That's what it's going to pay out. So if you lump sum in $400,000 into an immediate annuity, maybe that provides $2,000 a month for as long as you live. That way, anything that needs to get paid every month, you have guaranteed money to cover it.
something that I know a lot of people are curious to know about, and I'm going to create a scenario here.
Okay.
Let's say 20 years ago, someone decided to go out and buy an immediate annuity. And it was going to, as you said, it was going to cover their fixed expenses. You know, roof over their head, food on the table, medicine, clothing, that kind of stuff. And of course, 20 years ago, interest rates were higher. When the credit bubble burst in 2008, the annuity company still responsible to pay that high interest rate? And would they still pay that high interest rate?
Yeah, it depends on the annuity contract.
Okay.
So for example, actually, I had an attorney bring an annuity contract to me recently when the client thought they were going to pay out, the annuity company was going to guarantee 12% a year. Now, this is a spot we have to look at the fine print, all right? Because at that time of issuance in the 80s, when interest rates were really high, they were paying out 12% a year. But in the fine print, it also said down to a minimum of 4.5%.
Okay, so it became variable, the interest
It was
rate.
variable, right? Every year it changed, but the insurance company guaranteed 4.5%.
Okay.
And it also was very important to note that all these guarantees are not backed by any federal, state government guarantee. It's backed by an insurance company.
Okay.
All right, so if insurance company goes out of business, you might be out of luck.
Okay. Well, it's important to understand that and realize that there is no FDIC or federal government guarantee.
That's correct.
Very important stuff. Now, at some point, if you take a variable annuity, we talked about variable annuities earlier, and you decide to cash it in and accept the proceeds, you now owe taxes, don't you? And can you talk a little bit about what happens when you have to pay those taxes?
Yep, absolutely. So the way annuities work, annuities are classified as qualified accounts. So they're going to follow under similar tax codes as your traditional 401k and your traditional IRA. So once you deposit after-tax money and money that's already been taxed into an annuity, any money you make on it that year is tax deferred, so you won't pay taxes that year on it.
Yep.
Once you reach age 59 and a half, you can then start taking money out, penalty-free, but you will owe income taxes on the money that comes out of that annuity. All right, so it's not capital gains, point no, it's income taxes. Just like an IRA or a 401k, you have to pay income taxes on the money that comes out of that annuity. Okay.
Okay, so the general rule is then if you take money out before age 59 and a half, you have a penalty. If you take money out after age 59 and a half, then you have to pay ordinary income tax.
Yes
on
and
your
no.
gains.
Yep. So before age 59 and a half, if you take money out, there are certain circumstances where you may not have to pay the penalty, but let's just say you lump sum, you take all the money out. You will pay a 10% IRS penalty, all right, as well as ordinary income taxes. After age 59 and a half, you won't have the 10% penalty, however, you still will have the ordinary income taxes.
Okay. You know, Uncle Sam always wins, doesn't he? Good place for us to stop. When you think about annuities, what comes to mind? If you're like most people, you're probably unaware that an annuity may represent a component of a retirement plan. Today, it's more important than ever to develop a secure retirement nest egg. In this regard, an annuity can represent one investment option. However, understand that the rules governing these insurance products can be complicated, and a mistake can have serious consequences. Therefore, remember to read the contract carefully. All annuity contracts are not the same. In fact, annuity contracts vary. Know your beneficiary arrangement. A feature that makes annuities attractive is their ability to bypass the probate process upon the death of the owner. However, this requires selection of a primary and contingent beneficiary other than the estate. Make sure you fully understand the risks before entrusting any of your hard-earned cash to annuities. For as Ben Franklin is quoted as saying, an investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Therefore, learn about annuities before you invest. Understand which type of annuity is best for you by considering your risk tolerance, time horizon, and financial goals. Also keep in mind your retirement goals, needs, and investment options. In so doing, that familiarity will build comfort and peace of mind. And of course, make sure that an annuity complements your estate plan. Remember, it is your estate plan that acts as a roadmap to guide you to achieving your goals. In this regard, always jointly consult an estate planning lawyer and a financial advisor. And lastly, make sure that you avoid some common mistakes, such as failing to understand the fine print, shopping only for published interest rates without regard to other criteria, and failing to perform your due diligence. In closing, thanks to my guest, James DesRocher of Robert Fine & Associates. Jim, it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Ramsey.
And as always, thank you to you for watching Your Money, Your Life. My name is Attorney Ramsey Bahrawy, Building Your Trust.